Raps deploy ship inbound. Securing A. Securing A. Securing A.
Hey guys, Drifter here. I hope you enjoyed the little clip in the beginning. I'm going to be coming back to it later, but I've got an opinion for you, and that's that game mechanics are what make games fun. And you'll say, well, obviously, right? Good game mechanics makes for good gameplay, but truly, not everyone is on the same page with this idea. The commentary you're listening to today is mostly developer-focused or developer complaining based on some of the games I play, but also for people as well to just put a little seed in your head to think about the things that you ask of game developers. There are a lot of people that think that lots of items and gear makes a game fun, like Borderlands or Destiny or Skyrim, just lots and lots of things, or tons of space to explore, or quests such as Minecraft, that's actually a really good game, or Skyrim's another good one, Fallout, just lots and lots of things to do, procedurally generated, all this big giant world to explore. Another popular one, at least when it comes to marketing of a game, is awesome executions, preset animations, scripted moments, big cool things that you can do by hitting Y or triangle and just kind of starting it. Graphically beautiful games are good. This is one that I hear very often. One of the most common criticisms of a game, or one of the most common praises, are that graphically it looks good. When you ask somebody about a video game, most of the time, instead of they asking about like, oh, how's the gameplay, what are you doing, it's like, are the graphics good? It's a very straightforward question. And a game with a great story is often considered to be a great game. Slight little side story here. I was friends with in high school a very, very strange individual, we'll say, Sonic furry fan guy. But anyway, he loved video game stories. He didn't like movies, he didn't like comics, he didn't like books, he loved video game stories. So he would get a game and he would play the game either on easy or very easy just to experience the story and never actually play the game, just kind of waddle through it. And I thought he was crazy, but in his opinion, that is what made the experience good. And of course, a lot of this is opinionated. And speaking of opinionated, a lot of people believe that good game balance, at least for multiplayer, or making a game very competitive makes the game good. But I disagree with all of these things. I think the most important thing for a video game is having good fundamental mechanics of gameplay. Having good gameplay mechanics, of course, that makes sense with the story and is balanced and with good items and aesthetics and stuff to do is all good, but the core gameplay is what really needs to be fantastic. And just like the goofy clip you saw in the beginning, it's rare, but it's very fun and does happen and is replicable. It's a rare glitch where if you try to gravity slam perfectly onto somebody's head, they kind of bounce off. When we're talking about mechanics, Call of Duty has the best gunfight mechanics of any game, maybe ever. And I know that many of you might disagree with this and say that, you know, Call of Duty gunfights are unfair. It's probably because you've been playing it for a long time, or that you really like a more realistic experience, like Arma, for example, or that CSGO has really good gunplay dynamics, and they do, but really none of them beat Call of Duty. Call of Duty nailed this feeling of a gunfight, the mechanics of a gunfight. It's so intuitive, so easy to pick up, and that's one of the big successes of the game and how everybody does it. Battlefield 1 does a similar thing with good gunfight mechanics, but they've also got interesting vehicle mechanics and multiplayer dynamics, and there's a lot of crazy stuff you can do in Battlefield, but instead of just being like press square to activate the crazy, you have to work for it, you have to earn it, you have to kind of make these rare scenarios happen, but you can also make it too rare, like DayZ, for instance, where you just kind of survive on scraps and try not to get killed by zombies, or somewhat rare, like how PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds works. I think they've kind of mastered that. Or, for example, Mario would be fun to play with almost any theme on top of it. You could scrap the very simple Mario story, change the art, do a dozen different things with it, and the game would still be fun to play. And I think Overwatch falls into this too based on hero dynamics. They have fantastic hero dynamics and interactions and interesting gameplay styles, and I think that's what makes games great. And you'll say, well, the other things are important too. They are, but those are the things that don't necessarily make a game great, that helps make a game. For example, lots of items are boring if the game isn't fun. If the base gameplay isn't particularly fun, then having loads of items doesn't necessarily make it any better. This would be my main gripe with Borderlands. And just having lots of things does not mean lots of quality things. It'll be lots of kind of mediocre things. The next example would be, who cares about exploring if the exploring isn't fun? I ran into this problem with Skyrim, which I do think is a good game. It has its own interesting mechanics, but everyone's like, oh man, there's so much to do in Skyrim. There's so much going on in Skyrim. Skyrim still doesn't hold a candle to Morrowind when it comes to interesting quests, because 90% of Skyrim is like, I need you to find this thing, go to the dungeon, and what do you know, there's like a bajillion Draugr. You don't have any interesting missions, so all of the space is just more and more Draugr dungeons that you clear out. I don't think that preset kills or animations are fun. I mean, they're fun the first time or two, but they get kind of boring after a while. This happened with Titanfall a little bit with the animations, and I know they keep adding new ones, and they are cool, but they happen often enough to where it's just kind of like, meh, it's not the most interesting thing in the world, which is kind of some of the things that get me with the Infinite Warfare Specialist as well. After you've activated them enough times, it's not really super fun, and having games that are beautiful doesn't make them fun either. Every single year that comes out, there are god-tier, graphically, beautifully, aesthetically awesome games that have very generic, boring gameplay, and they ultimately end up being forgettable. Next up, games with great stories can have horrible mechanics. For example, Silent Hill 2, which is one of my favorite games of all time, I think it has horrible mechanics, and it relies solely on the back of the story, and it can be improved greatly with some better mechanics. And finally, a well-balanced game can still be boring, like for instance checkers or chess. Very well balanced, but not the most exciting thing. So it is of my opinion that a well-made game is one that has a core set of mechanics that are inherently fun, and the playing of the game, the experience of what you're doing, is what makes it fun more than the graphics, more than the items, more than how big it is, more than how cool your animations are, more than the balance, more than anything else. The base game itself needs to be fun. That is my opinion. I hope that you guys share that opinion with me. If you do, or if you don't, or if you disagree, leave a comment and I'll reply to a few of them. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.